China has accumulated a vast number of European businesses in the last decade, prompting many to fear that Beijing could gain control over the continent with a debt trap. Official data released by the Chinese government today showed that the country's economy grew by 4% year-on-year in the fourth quarter of 2021. This gross domestic product, GDP, expansion eased from a 4.9% growth in the previous period but exceeded the market consensus of a growth of 3.6%. The reduced pace of growth has been blamed on a number of reasons such as a property downturn, curbs on debt and strict COVID-19 measures that have seen the country pursue a zero-COVID policy. For 2021, however, GDP is said to have expanded by 8.1%, which would be China's highest annual growth in a decade, partly due to the low base set in 2020 when the economy, like many around the world, was jolted by the pandemic. This 8.1% has far exceeded the government's target of 6% and will come as welcome news for President Xi Jinping and his cabinet in Beijing. Exponential growth is something he and Chinese officials have become used to in recent decades, with GDP having grown on average 10% a year since 1978. China's success, many argue, has largely come through its decades-long forward-looking plans, with Mr. Xi currently working towards fulfilling his global vision for China which will transform the country into a leading superpower by 2050. One aspect of this policy has seen Chinese-owned businesses buy up many businesses abroad, most notably in Europe. While China's ownership of EU businesses is relatively small, it has grown quickly over the past decade. A third of the bloc's total assets are now in the hands of foreign-owned, non-EU companies, 9.5% of which had their ownership based in China, Hong Kong or Macau, up from 2.5% in 2007. This rise is partnered with a decline in US and Canadian interests which, by the end of 2016 were at just 29%, down from 42% in 2007. The amount of Chinese direct investment in the EU has been rising rapidly, peaking at €37.2 billion, £31 billion, in 2016. A large proportion of this direct investment, both state and private, is concentrated in the major economies such as the UK, France and Germany, according to the Rhodium Group and Mercator Institute. Between 2000 and 2018, data shows that China had invested nearly €50 billion, £41 billion, in the UK alone, while Germany had received €25 billion, £20 billion, and France and Italy around €15 million, £12.5 billion, each. Analysts at Bloomberg previously concluded that China now owned, or had a stake in, 4 airports, 6 maritime ports and 13 professional football teams in Europe. And, since 2008, it is estimated that there has been 45% more investment activity in 30 European countries from China than from the US since 2008. However, many say that these figures actually underestimate the true extent of China's investment and activity in Europe. In 2013, the Chinese government adopted what it called its Belt and Road Initiative, a new maritime and overland route that would loosely follow the ancient Silk Road and reconnect China with Europe and Africa. Six years after its inception, in 2019, Italy became the first major European economy to sign up to it, agreeing to a huge infrastructural pact with China to increase trade. Now, more than 20 countries in Europe, including Russia, are part of the initiative. Much of the agreement sees China pumping money into parts of Europe that have complicated relationships with the EU. It is financing the expansion of the port of Piraeus in Greece, is building roads and railways in Serbia, one of which will take freight directly to Serbia from China and vice versa. It is also building roads and railways in Montenegro, Bosnia-Herzegovina and North Macedonia. The prospect of low-interest loans for finance projects could prove attractive to poorer Balkan and Southern European countries, especially as demands for transparency and good governance can make EU funding appear less attractive. But, as analysts have long pointed out, loans from China come with potentially crippling conditions: heavy involvement of Chinese companies in those European countries, including migrant workers fulfilling infrastructural work, as well as the burden of future debt. Montenegro has largely been touted as the first victim of China's debt trap after the government found itself struggling to pay off a $1 billion, £730 million, €875 million, Chinese loan for a highway project which put the country into a dire financial situation, a repayment scheme which came into effect in June 2021. Prime Minister Zdravko Krivokapic, who expressed his opposition to the project in 2014, has since been forced to turn to the EU and ask for financial support. But the bloc, aware of the potential consequences for other Balkan states, resolutely rejected his requests for help. Much of the highway remains incomplete after funds ran out, with the contract stating that should Montenegro fail to repay the loan, it will have to give up some of its territory to China, according to France 24. It is not only Europe's poorer nations that are at risk. ext3nt previously collated a number of Chinese business takeovers and failures in Germany, revealing the extent to which Beijing has made a bed for itself at the heart of the continent, many of which pose potential threats to both German and European security and industry. Frankfurt Airport. HNA Group Company Limited is a Chinese conglomerate based in Haikou, Hainan, China. In 2017, the group acquired a majority 82.5% stake, the first such purchase of an overseas airport by HNA. At the time, China Daily reported, it is also the latest in a succession of acquisitions mounted by the company of various international assets, in order to step up its global expansion. The group isn't state-owned, instead owned by a handful of individuals and companies based mostly in China, although George Soros, the billionaire philanthropist, once held a stake but has since sold it. Daimler, car manufacturer. Geely owns a 9.69% stake in Daimler, a car manufacturer, worth $9 billion, £6.4 billion. The car manufacturer is owned by Chinese billionaire business magnate Li Shufu, and was the country's first non-state-owned car maker, started in 1997. KUKA, robot maker. Mateo owns 95% of KUKA, an industrial robot maker. The Chinese company publicly listed bought a 25% stake in the German robotics manufacturer in 2016. By the next year, it saw the potential of owning a European-based and world-leading robotics expert, tipped to help speed up automated production further, and secured a 95% stake. KUKA's estimated worth at the time of the share acquisition was €4.6 billion, £3.9 billion. ext3nt failed. China's Fujian Grand Chip Investment Fund takeover of ext3nt, a chip equipment maker, failed after then U.S. President Barack Obama blocked the deal. The German company was ready to secure transaction in 2016, but it was thwarted at the last minute over concerns and growing objections in Germany and the US of China buying up firms with strategic technologies abroad without allowing reciprocal transactions at home. The €670 million £580 million takeover offer was already in doubt after the German government withdrew its approval, reportedly at the US bidding. Mr. Obama had before this stopped Fujian from buying ext3nt US, following an assessment by the Committee on Foreign Investment in the United States, CFI-US, an interagency task force under the Treasury Department. Krauss-Maffei Group. In 2016, the state-owned Chinese chemicals company, ChemChina, bought machinery maker Krauss-Maffei Group for about $1 billion, £707 billion. It was the biggest ever Chinese acquisition of a German company. At the time, Reuters noted, the deal is the latest example in recent years of deep-pocketed Chinese companies seeking to gain the technological expertise, distribution networks and branding of Western firms, often built up over several decades. It came as China's currency was weakening and the country encouraged companies to shift investments overseas in order to drive more deal-making. Kotze, aerospace suppliers. In 2018, China's Advanced Technology and Materials, ext3nt, whose largest shareholder is a state-owned company, took over German aerospace supplier Kotze. On hearing of the deal, the German Economy Ministry tightened the rules on foreign corporate takeovers, concerned that important technology and know-how was being transferred to foreign countries. Liefeld Metal Spinning failed. In the same year, the Chinese takeover by Yantai of Liefeld metal spinning was blocked by Germany's government. A government source said, the cabinet today decided to grant authorization for a veto. This authorization allows for vetoing the purchase of a domestic company by a foreign company for security reasons. ext, communications technology, failed. Late in 2020, just days before the EU secured an investment deal with China, Germany blocked the takeover of satellite and radar technology firm ext by a subsidiary of state-controlled missile maker China Aerospace and Industry Group, CASIC. The German government, as in past cases, said it was due to national security concerns. Berlin views ext as an important provider of satellite communication, radar and radio technology. Its knowledge of such technologies is crucial to Germany and Europe. Angela Merkel, the former Chancellor's cabinet is said to have, on this occasion, grown concerned over unfair competition caused by state-backed enterprises and restrictions on market access.